Hi, in this video we are going to study the topic of deadweight loss, that is the loss of welfare due to monopoly power. Now we should know that deadweight loss is a very important topic under monopoly, as both theoretical and numerical type of questions are asked from here. So before understanding deadweight loss, we will first understand the concept of consumer surplus and producer surplus. So the definition states that consumer surplus is the difference between willingness to pay for a unit of commodity and the amount that is actually paid for it. Graphically, we can see that at price P1, consumer surplus is the triangle AE1 and P1. Similarly, producer surplus is the difference between price received by the seller and the minimum willingness to sell of the sellers. That is, it is the triangle BE1 P1. Now, if you want to take an example, say suppose for unit of commodity, for 1 unit commodity, the price is 5 units, the maximum willingness to pay for the consumer was 10, and the minimum willingness to pay sell of the seller was 2 units. So in this case, the consumer surplus for this unit of output will be 5 units, that is 10 minus 5, and the producer surplus for this unit of output will be 3 units, that is 5 minus 2. So this is just a very crude example to help you understand the concept even better. So in the case of perfect competition, we are assuming in this case that a demand curve represents the AR curve and the supply curve is the marginal cost curve. So in case of perfect competition, this entire area AE1B, this entire triangle is the total surplus in case of perfect competition, which is the sum of consumer surplus and producer surplus. So total welfare is equal to CS plus PS, that is consumer surplus plus producer surplus in case of perfect competition. Now, things will change in case of monopoly, because in case of monopoly, the equilibrium is determined by the marginal trade-off, that is through MR is equal to MC. So we get the quantity through MR is equal to MC, and then using that quantity through the AR curve, we get the price. In case of monopoly, the equilibrium will take place at EM, quantity sold will be QM, and the price will be PM. That is, the monopolist charges a higher price and sell a lesser quantity in the market. Now, if the firm behave like a perfect competitive firm, then its equilibrium will be at EC. The firm will charge a price PC and it will sell QC. We have seen in the previous page that the consumer surplus will be this area AECPC, and the producer surplus will be this area BPCEC, and the total surplus is the entire triangle. For a monopolist, equilibrium is at EM. Now, consumer surplus in case of monopolist will be this area. We have seen that graphically it is the area bounded by the demand curve and the price line. And producer surplus in case of monopolist is this area. Graphically it is the area bounded by the supply curve and the price line. Now we should understand here a very important thing, that we are assuming that the marginal cost act as a supply curve of a monopoly. We know that in reality the monopolist supply curve does not exist, so we are making this crucial assumption over here. Now if you see the consumer surplus and the producer surplus, you will notice a very important thing, that the consumer surplus, both the consumer surplus and the producer surplus has reduced in the case of monopoly. However, producer surplus has a portion of the consumer surplus is now a part of producer surplus, this portion. Thus, the monopolist extract a portion of the consumer surplus by charging a higher price for its product. Now, we see a triangle here that was earlier a part of the total surplus, but now it doesn't get included. What is this triangle? So it consists of two smaller triangles. Let's call this 1 and let's call this 2. This triangle 1 is consumption distortion loss. That is, there were few consumers who were earlier willing to pay a higher price, but they are now excluded from the market. So this triangle represents the consumption distortion losses. Similarly, this triangle 2 is the production distortion loss, as there was few producers who were willing to supply when the marginal cost, when the price was PC, but they are now excluded from the market, and thus this area 2 represents the consumption distortion loss. Production distortion loss. So a monopolist equilibrium is at EM, where price is PM and quantity QM. The consumer surplus is the triangle, is the area AFPM, and the producer surplus is BEM FPM. Total surplus is ABEMF. So deadweight loss is the loss in consumer surplus and producer surplus, which take place in case of a monopoly due to restriction in output. The triangle ECFG is the loss of welfare due to consumption distortion loss, such that consumers who were willing to pay higher than the marginal cost are not included in the market. Similarly, the triangle EMECG represents a loss of welfare due to ignoring producers who were willing to sell extra unit if price was equal to MC. So, profit maximization decision in monopoly is taken on the basis of marginal trade-off, and therefore average revenue function plays no role in it. The entire triangle EMFEC represents a total deadweight loss of a monopoly. This is the total deadweight loss in case of a monopoly. Now, we will also do a small numerical on this topic to understand the concept even better.